Hey everyone, Pastor George here, and today for our Thursday mailbag, I had a question about one of the stories in Exodus, and we touched on it like super briefly if you go back to our Exodus Bible study series, which is what we did during COVID like 2 years ago, right? I remember I did the entire book of Exodus. And in Exodus 4, there's just this two-verse story that involves the circumcision of Moses' son by his wife, and it kind of comes out of left field, and you don't understand what's going on. But I'm here to tell you what's going on, because once you look at it, it does end up making a little bit of sense, but it relies a lot on context knowledge that we don't necessarily have because we're not living at this time, and also what the story is trying to say. So here's what it says in Exodus, and if you have a Bible, you can open it up and read, but it's just two verses. It's in Exodus 4, verses 24 to 26, and this is what it says. It says, "At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met him and sought to put him to death. Then Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, 'Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me.' So he let him alone. It was then that she said, 'A bridegroom of blood,' because of the circumcision." All right. And that's it. And it just moves in. So this is what happens. So Moses leaves, right? He goes and he ends up marrying Zipporah, who he flees Egypt, right? Because he kills an Egyptian. He marries Zipporah, who's a Midianite. Her father, Jethro, is a priest, right? And here we see that he is returning to Egypt. So he's the one that's being talked about at the thing. But at some point in this journey, Moses is going, and at a lodging place, the Lord meets him and seeks to put him to death. And what this is getting at here is this idea that Moses has not been doing what God asked him to do, right? You remember part of the Abrahamic covenant is to circumcise your son, and so he hasn't done that. And this is what this means, to seek to death, is like to make him ill, right? So he's very ill, or something's wrong here. And his wife realizes what the problem is. And the thing here is that this is clearly part of the historical context at the time, that the Midianites didn't practice circumcision, right? Or else Gershom, who is Moses' son, would have been circumcised already. So Moses didn't do it because of that reason, but now that they're returning into the promised land, are going to be leading the Jews to the promised land, it's a requirement, right? But here's the interesting part of this, is we aren't completely sure of the hymn in verse 24 when it says, "Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet." If your translation adds Moses, really what it is in the Hebrew is his feet with it, and said, "Surely you're a bridegroom of blood to me." So she either, cuts off Gershom's foreskin and touches his feet with it, or she touches Moses' feet with it. This is just part of the ritual. It's just kind of interesting that we kind of insert that. The idea here, though, is that Moses has, by doing this, also put Zipporah at fault, because she's supposed to be, she's under his protection and his care, being his wife, and she is also going to be smote by God if this doesn't happen. So she has to take it into her own hands. And that's why she says, "Surely you're a bridegroom of blood to me," because Moses, in his, status as her husband, almost could kill her by not following the covenant, right? So God leaves Moses alone, and that's because Zipporah, showed faith in this situation, right? That's actually a really good takeaway from this, is that because of her faith, Moses is the one who was kind of saved, right? Because she's the one that actually did what was required, right? So you see that at the end. It says, "So he let him alone." And it was then that she said, "A bridegroom of blood," because of the circumcision. So it's related to that. And I think that's really important. So what happens here is, even though this comes out of left field, what this is it's a story. It's a moment in Moses' life where it becomes very clear to him and to us through the law, through Exodus, that God cares about the following of the law and the ritual customs in it, and that if Moses is going to lead the people, he has to do so with the understanding that this is an important part of it, and that his wife ended up having to step up and make sure that it was followed. So I think that that's a really interesting takeaway from this. And yeah, it's a good question because it's a weird story. I will see you guys all on Sunday. Next week I'm on vacation, so no mailbag or Theolog or Bible study next week, but I'll see you the week after that. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and peace out.